Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. We are here today to talk about social justice, a very important topic from GS2 of your mains examination syllabus. Now, usually when we talk about GS2, we focus on polity, we focus on governance, we focus on international relations, but somewhere down the line, we overlook a very important part of GS2, which is social justice. Today, we will be discussing about what exactly is the syllabus of social justice. What are the topics that you have to focus on? What are the resources from where you can read about these topics? What are the different types of questions that we have seen in social justice? And how can you answer these questions in the best possible manner? So without any further ado, let's see what do we have in store for you. As I said, social justice forms a part of GS2 syllabus of the mains examination. We have to read about the social welfare schemes for vulnerable section of the population run by both center and the state governments in India. Performance of these welfare schemes which are run by the government. We will discuss a few of them. The issues related to poverty and hunger. Mechanisms, laws, institutions, bodies constituted for protection and betterment of vulnerable section of the population. And also issues related to development and management of social sector, services related to health, education, human resources, etc. Now, when you read this, there is one thing that should strike in your mind instantly. These are the topics which are discussed day in and day out in the newspaper. You see these topics being mentioned in the editorial pages almost every single day. For example, you might have an editorial that talks about how the government of India should take care of the unfortunate orphans after the COVID-19 pandemic. You might have seen articles in the newspaper about how should the government reduce the hunger in India. You might also would have seen articles about how the government should initiate new welfare schemes to provide much more nutrition. Meaning that in order to be best prepared for these topics, you have to be up to date with number one, the government initiatives that are being taken. Some of these are discussed in governance as well. Secondly, you have to be up to date with these kind of articles being mentioned in your newspaper, in the Yojana Monthly Current Affair magazine, and also the monthly current affair magazine that is published by Byju's Exam Prep IAS. All of that combined will make sure that you are best prepared for this particular topic in GS2, that is social justice. Let me give you a few examples of the subtopics underneath all these topics that you have to study. The first main topic was the welfare schemes that are run by the center and the state governments for the vulnerable section of the society and the impact that these schemes have had. Let me give you a few examples of such schemes. When you talk about the vulnerable section of the society, we usually refer to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, minorities, children, elderly, disabled, women, transgender, and the schemes that the government is running and the performance of those schemes specifically. Now, I can give you innumerable examples of the schemes that are being run specifically targeting these section of the Indian population. Let's share a few examples. When you talk about the government initiatives with respect to the scheduled caste, you have initiatives such as Protection of the Civil Rights Act, the SC and ST Prevention of Atrocities Act. We also have the National Commission for Scheduled Castes, the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, which have been set up as constitutional bodies. We also have the National Commission for Backward Classes that was recently given a constitutional status. So the working of these authorities, what is the mandate of these authorities, how successful has it been, all of that is discussed here. Similarly, we have schemes for the disabled section of the society like Rehabilitation Council of India Act, the Mental Retardation and Multiple Disabilities Act. We have the National Trust for Welfare of Persons with Autism, Cerebral Palsy, Mental Retardation and Multiple Disabilities Act, etc. All of this can be covered very easily since most of these are mentioned and are discussed in editorials of the important national newspapers. We also have such initiative for the scheduled tribes, including National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. As I said, it's a constitutional body, a 5-member body. The Tribal Sub-Plan, the TriFed, etc. The government also has taken a lot of initiatives to recognize the forest rights of this specific population. We have a lot of initiative for minorities, women and children, and health. All of these are covered under the topic of social justice. For example, in the sphere of health, the government of India has been taking a lot of initiatives even much before the pandemic had begun. For example, we have the National Health Mission, the National Health Policy, we have schemes such as the Ayushman Bharat, we also have the maternal and adolescent health, child health, antimicrobial resistance. All these topics are in focus with respect to the policy making of the government. And all these can be very easily brushed up if you are following current affairs and if you are following a lot of current affair related initiatives of BYJU'S IAS as well. Then we also have education related concepts such as the ASAR report that is published by the Pratham NGO. We also have the new education policy which was released some time back and has been a topic of discussion ever since. We also have the Subramaniam panel report that led to this national education policy. Financing of the education, government initiatives which include a lot of government schemes such as the midday meal scheme, the right to education, and how different state governments across the country are taking their own initiative in this regard. We also have government initiatives in the field of human resources. How is it that the government is planning to upskill India with programs such as Skill India? How the government has been ensuring that the disadvantaged population specifically ensures that they have a support from the government to upskill themselves and be ready for the job market in the future. We discuss about the development initiatives. We discuss about the different steps that can be taken by the government. Then we also have a lot of discussion on the issues related to poverty and hunger. For example, the relationship between poverty and hunger, the causes. We also have the Millennium Development Goals and the Sustainable Development Goals. We also have the constraints that we are facing in reducing our poverty and hunger, the National Food Security Program, the Antyodaya Yojana. All these have to be discussed in the social justice syllabus of GS2. Again, you don't require any special or specific book for it. As long as you're up to date with your newspaper reading, you should be covered. These are the kind of articles which you see almost every second day. For example, this article says, India's school children need their childhood back. A lot of these articles were written especially during the pandemic when most of the schools in India were closed down. Because schools in India are not just about education. A lot of government schemes, including schemes which ensure nutrition to children, are based on and are centered around these schools. So closure of schools means closure down of a lot of these schemes which were covered in a lot of these articles in the newspapers. And if you cover that up, you should be good to go. Let me give you a few examples of the kind of questions that we see in social justice part. These are the questions that were seen in 2019. Let me read out a few for you and you can see how newspaper reading can help you in answering these questions very well. For example, there was a question. The need for cooperation amongst various service sectors has been an inherent component of development discourse. Partnership bridges bring the gap among the sectors. It also sets in motion a culture of collaboration and team spirit. In the light of the statements above, examine India's development process. No book can actually prepare you to write these kind of answers. If you actually have to write these kind of answers, what you need is a very, very good grasp of the newspapers and these editorials written by learned people. You can also answer questions such as, how is the government of India protecting traditional knowledge of medicine from patenting by pharmaceutical companies? As you know, the government of India has been focusing on giving a lot of push to our traditional way of medicine, which is all included in the Ayush. How the government is planning to give a push to medical practitioners who follow this kind of medicine. All this has to be covered in these kind of answers. Then we have questions such as, in the context of neoliberal paradigm of development planning, multi-level planning is expected to make operations cost effective and remove many implementation blockages. Discuss. This talks about how the government schemes have a lot of roadblocks and blockages when it comes to implementing these schemes on the ground. This is what you have to code and answer. Similarly, in 2018, there were questions such as, how far do you agree with the view that the focus on lack of availability of food as the main cause of hunger takes attention away from ineffective human development policies in India? Poverty and hunger have always been at the center of attention of every government in India ever since we became independent. Unfortunately, these problems have still not been tackled completely. For example, now the problem of hunger is not about you not getting enough food to eat. It is the problem of hidden hunger now. That the body is not getting enough nutrition, and that is what leads to a lot of problems. If I lock you up in a room and for 2 months, if I only give you rice to eat, you will not die of hunger. But yes, your body will be severely damaged physically because you're not getting the kind of nutrition that it requires. These kind of topics are also very extensively covered in the newspapers, so it is very, very important to follow them up. You can also follow the current affair analysis that we do every day for you on our YouTube channel of Byju's IAS at 7 p.m. That will be very, very beneficial for you to answer these kind of questions. I hope this makes it much easier for you to understand the social justice component of GS2 and how you can prepare for it. Thank you so much for watching.